Alright everybody, so this is kind of going to be it. This is the absolute last time that we're going to be reviewing for the EOG. This is the end of year test, end of grade test, and this is the second test out of our practice workbook. And yeah, here's how I want you to be using these videos to actually study. Number one, don't sit down and watch all of these all at once, okay? Adults cannot sit and concentrate and focus on a single task for longer than 30 minutes or an hour. So I'm not expecting you guys to. I'm going to be breaking probably, ideally, either I'll do half in one video and half in another, or I might break it into 3 parts. Each section will cover 15 questions, something like that. But treat this the same way we've been treating all of our study guides this year, where review the questions you missed. If it's a question you were confident on and you got right, you don't necessarily have to focus on it too much, but this is the last time we're going to be reviewing for this test. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. I have my desmos.com/scientific set up over here, so we are ready to go. This is the calculator that will pop up on your screen during the EOG. So, if you want to get familiar with how to use it, go ahead and make sure you have this open in another tab. So, we'll get started. Question number 1. It says the distances and times of practice runs for 4 students are shown below. And it's asking which runner has the fastest pace in minutes per mile. So what that means is they're going to want us to do the number of minutes divided by the number of miles for each person. So that's 21 divided by 3, that's 32 divided by 4, that's 30 divided by 5, that's 14 divided by 2. And all we're doing is doing those division problems. And naturally, if you've ever raced somebody, the person with the shortest time is the winner, because you finished the race in, say, 5 minutes instead of 10 minutes. So, Sean, 21 divided by 3 is 7. 32 divided by 4 is 8. 30 divided by 5 is going to be 6. And 14 divided by 2 is 7. So the fastest person out of all of them was Mark for number 1. For number 2, it says Susan was asked to think of a statistical question that she could ask about her school or students, and what would be a good statistical question? Who is the principal of the school? That's not a good question. There is only one correct answer. How many school days are there? Again, not a good statistical question. There's only one answer. C. How many students are enrolled in each grade at the school? Okay, that's pretty good, because you have to get the data for each of the grades at the school, but still, those numbers for the most part are not going to change from day to day, from year to year, too much. D says, what is the average amount of time that students at the school typically spend on homework each week? This is a better question than C. C isn't terrible, but for D, it wants you to find the average. It wants you to talk to multiple students. It wants you to talk to multiple students, multiple days, multiple weeks. You're getting a lot of data with that question. For number 3, the balance in Emma's bank account is negative $26.30. Jonah's account, negative $23.90. And Maya's account, negative $29.05. If the negative balance represents the amount that is owed, what statement is true? So in this case, they're talking about, if I look at my bank account and it says I have $20, that means I have $20 that I can spend. If I checked my bank account and it said I had negative $26, that means I owe them $26. It means I don't have the money and I owe somebody money. So that's what those negative dollars mean. So this says Maya owes the least. No, Maya has negative $29, so she owes somebody $29. That's a lot. That's the most. This one says Emma owes the most. No. Negative $26 is bad, but Maya owns $29, so Maya is worse. Jonah owes more than Emma. No. Jonah is the one who owes the least. Jonah only owes about $23. Emma owes about $26. And then this, Maya owes more than Jonah. That's true. Maya owes $29. Jonah only about $23. For number 4, it says Doug is buying a new backpack for $15, several new notebooks for $1.80 each, and then it shows us his table. Okay, so it looks like we're spending for $15, so $15 is constant, and then $1.80 for each notebook. Okay, so we're going to add $1.80 times the number of notebooks. We don't know how many that is, so I'll just put X for now. But I know that's basically what the equation is. Doug writes the equation like this. So he put 15N plus 180, or $1.80. So this one is asking which of the following describes his error. They're telling you Doug is wrong. This is not the right equation. So A says in Doug's equation, N is multiplied by 15 instead of 180. The equation should be this. Yeah, that's exactly what we were looking for. B, they're saying that it was right, but you had to do subtraction. No, there's nothing in this problem that makes me think we have to subtract anything. This one, it says it's added instead of multiplied. That's true, but we still shouldn't be multiplying the backpack. If we multiply $15, that's like saying we bought multiple backpacks. And that's not true. And D, it says 15 is multiplied instead of added. Again, that's true, but it doesn't fix the whole thing, because now we're just adding 3 numbers, and that doesn't work. So A is what we wanted. Alright, so the next set of problems we're going to do is number 5. So for number 5, we've got which algebraic expression is the same meaning as 14 more. Okay, so hold up, 14 more, that's going to be represented by adding 14. So let me just check my answer choices and see what doesn't have plus 14. So A is out and D is out because they don't have a plus 14. So 14 more than 3 times a number. Well, 3 times a number would just be 3 times, well, a number. We don't know what that number is, but 3x. That is 3 times whatever x is. So we're looking for a 3x and a plus 14. Here's my 3x. Here's my plus 14. C is close, but there's nothing in this sentence that makes me think it needs parentheses. So C is not the answer. Number 6, it's saying 160 megabytes in 4 seconds. So it's then asking, what about megabytes per second? What is that speed? So megabytes per second, we're doing 160 divided by 4 seconds. So 160 divided by 4 seconds. 4 goes into 1. It doesn't. It goes into 16 4 times, which gives me 16. Here's what to do when you have that extra 0 right there. Carry down the 0, and it's a little silly, but you have to say, how many times does 4 go into 0? 0 times. The answer is 40 megabytes per second. Another way you could think about it is, what would 16 divided by 4 be? Well, that'd be 4. So if I add a 0 on the end, I'm adding a 0 onto the end of my answer too. That's another way you could think about questions like number 6. For number 7, they tried to trick you. See, the first sentence, it says there are 3 20-minute periods. And then the second question says that Colin plays 12 minutes each period. So if it's 12 minutes for every 20-minute period, it doesn't matter that there were 3 periods. That doesn't matter. That was extra information we did not need. So this problem, is asking for a ratio of playing time to total minutes. So that is 12 to 20, which if I divide 12 and 20 both by, let's say, 2, I would get 6 to 10. I can divide both of those by 2 as well to get 3 to 5, which is my answer. Now, if you actually did multiply these to get, let's see, if there were 3 20-minute periods, that'd be a total of 60, and 3 times 12, that would be 36. You could still do this. 36 to 60 should still simplify to 3 to 5. It just might have taken you a bit longer, and because you're starting with larger numbers, it's easier to make a mistake. So read carefully with ratio problems. And number 8, it's asking about which data set provides the most information about variability. I mentioned this word with the first test that we did. Range is what measures variability. And range is the only thing that is mentioned down here that would make sense. Mean and median, yeah, those do tell me about like where the middle of my data should be, but it doesn't tell me anything about like how spread out data is. Maximum, well, it's great to know that the maximum is 40, but unless I know what the minimum was too, that doesn't really tell me how spread out the data is. Because I have no idea what if the minimum is only 35. It's not very spread out at all. Moving along to number 9. This one, nice and easy. It's just asking what point has those coordinates. 5, -3. So my first number is 5, so I go to the right by 5. Second number is -3, so I will go down by 3. It's R. For number 10, it's asking what are the coefficients of this expression. So a coefficient, if you don't remember, is simply a number that is attached to a variable, or a number that is touching a letter. So 8 is touching the y, 12 is touching the x, and 5 is touching that y. So 8, 12, and 5. That's all. That is all there is to finding coefficients. Nothing more than that. If you ever see coefficients, it's talking about those numbers. Now, the 7 and the 1, they do have a name, and it didn't come up in this question, but that doesn't mean it won't come up on the EOG. This number and this number would be called constants. Okay? So 7 and 1, those would be constants. And then last but not least, something that you should know, let me circle that again. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of what we would call terms. Terms are just sections of these expressions that are separated by plus signs and minus signs. Multiplication and division does not separate a term. So if you have like right here where it says 12x, that means 12 times x. That is considered one term. Multiplication is one single term. It's the addition and subtraction that separates these problems into terms. But enough of that. For number 11, let's see, we've got 10 watermelons for $39.90 for total, and we're trying to find out what is the price in dollars for each watermelon. And it says express your answer as dollars and cents. I'll talk to you about how they want you to do that on the test in a minute, because on the EOG, these will be the same directions that you're going to see when you get to the actual test. Only there won't be a grid like this. It'll be more like a text box, so it'll look kind of like that, and it will tell you to type your answer. But it will tell you you can only write numbers or these symbols. A period, that would be called a hyphen, that little sideways dash for like negative signs or minus signs, or this slash for when you're typing in fractions. And I'll show you how they want you to type those in once we get to another problem like that. But for this, we are just dividing the amount of money we spent divided by 10 watermelons. So we're going to do $39.90 divided by 10. Okay? So we line up our decimals, and then we just start dividing. 10 does not go into 3 at all. 10 goes into 39 3 times. Gives me 30. We'll subtract that. Carry down this 9. 10 goes into 99 only 9 times, which gets me 90. We'll subtract that to get 9. Carry down my 0. And 10 goes into 90 exactly 9 times. We'll subtract that, and it gets me 0. So this would be my answer. G, they will want you to type your answer. Here's what you would type. 3.99. Now for those of you saying, but what about that 0 at the front? If you type in that 0, you will still get credit. It will still mark it as correct. Fortunately, the EOG is very lenient if you type in an equivalent answer. If you were crazy enough, you could even enter that and it would still mark it right. However, for this particular problem, here's something that you could do that would make it marked wrong. Adding an extra 0 for this particular problem would make this problem wrong, because it wants you to enter your answer as dollars and cents. And dollars and cents only have 2 decimal places. You'll never go to McDonald's and order yourself breakfast and then have the cashier say, okay, that'll be $3.900. That's not going to happen. It will always be less than 100, so it will always be 2 decimal places. So keep that in mind. Pay attention to what it wants you to express your answer as, because it might only want a certain number of decimal places. For number 12, this one is talking about Desiree ran 12 miles in 1 hour 48 minutes. What is the average running rate in minutes per mile? So first of all, we have a problem. It told us 1 hour in 48 minutes. We need to know exactly how many minutes total that is. So this 1 hour piece would be 60 minutes plus 48 minutes gives us a total of 108 minutes. Okay? Now that we know that it's 108 total minutes, we're going to do minutes divided by the number of miles. So that's 108 divided by 12. Hopefully, you're good with your multiplication facts, because 108 is part of the 12 times tables. 108 divided by 12 is 9. Okay? If you don't believe me, go ahead and start counting by 12s. You will hit 108 after 9 times. For number 13, we have another long division problem. So for this one, we've got 1,476, which is being divided by 12. Okay? Now let's see here. 12 goes into 1. It does not. So I'm going to put in the 0. 12 goes into 14 only 1 time. So 1 times 12 gives me 12. We'll subtract that. Carry down my 7. 12 goes into 27 only 2 times, which gives me 24. Carry down the 6. And last but not least, 12 goes into 36 3 times to give me 36. And then for this problem, if I were to say, like, have a text box that I would type in my answer to, I would be typing in 123, no other symbols. For number 14, it's asking for something called a scale factor. Now, scale factor, it's unusual that they use that phrase. That is not really part of our vocabulary. What they are talking about, if you ever hear the term scale factor or what the rate is, they're referring to multiplication or division. So in this case, they're trying to ask you, what would I multiply 2 by to get 8? Or what would I divide 8 by to get 2? That number is the scale factor. So if you look at 2 and 8, most of you recognize immediately, oh, it's 2 times 4 would equal 8. And you can double check by looking at the rest of the numbers. 8 times 4 is 32, 5 times 4 is 20, 3 times 4 is 12. It works for the whole table. And that's how you know it's the correct scale factor. So for this, all we would type in is the number 4. 4 would be our scale factor. The last problem before we get into the calculator active section is going to be 164.4 divided by 2.4. So for this, we set it up like normal, 164.4 divided by 2.4. Now, there is something we have to do before we get started with this problem. See, you are never allowed to have a decimal on the outside of these brackets. Inside is fine. We saw that earlier, I think, with number 11. 11, you're allowed to have a decimal in here. It's out here that's the problem. So what we have to do is move this decimal over to the end. So that way we can get rid of it. But if we move this decimal over one space, that means we have to do the same thing to the other side. So we're going to move this decimal place over, and the decimal ends right there. Now I'm going to go ahead and erase my old decimals so that way I don't get confused. You don't have to, but I do this so that way it makes everything look a bit neater. There. So here's my problem. My problem now is the equivalent of 1,644 divided by 24. So 24 goes into 1. It doesn't at all. 24 goes into 164, or 16. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead of myself. 24 goes into 164. I'm not sure how many times. I know it's going to be more than 5 times, so I'm going to guess probably 6. So 6 times 24. Let's see, that would give me a 4, carry my 2. That would give me 144. Yeah, that seems about right. So 6 times 144. We'll subtract that to get 20. Carry down my 4. Now, I don't know if that's going to be 9 times it will go in or only 8. I feel like it might go in only 8 times, so I'm going to try 24 times 9 and see what happens. That gives me a 6, carry my 3. That would be 18 plus that. No, that did not work. That would be 216. So 9 times is too many, so it must be only 8. Now 8 times 24, that's going to be, let's see, that'd be 32 again, so 2, carry my 3. That would be 16 plus 3, 192. Gives me a 2, do some borrowing, and I would get 12. Now, here, obviously, there is no room to write a remainder. It will not allow you to write a letter of the alphabet. But we know what we are supposed to do here, because we need to get a decimal, and we're not in the calculator active section yet. So, if you need to keep going, add a decimal, which we already have a decimal, and then you can add a 0 after the decimal to carry down. So we add our 0 and carry it down. 24 goes into 120. I'm going to let you know right now, it's 5 times. 5 times 24 will give you 120 exactly. That is how you're going to do these types of problems, even if they are in calculator inactive section. So, kind of the same as the past couple of problems we have done. When you go to type in your answer, you'll type it in, as 68.5. If you want to type in 0068.5, that will also get marked right, but it's unnecessary. You don't need to include that. And I think that's where I'll end this section. Again, do not watch all 3 of these videos all at once. That is a lot of information all at once. I would only really want you to watch 1 of these videos per day. Alright? So try to watch all 3 of them before the EOGs begin next week. Ideally, you should watch the last one of these on Monday. So maybe watch 1 today, maybe watch 1 over the weekend, and then 1 on Monday. If you don't manage to watch any of them over the weekend, then you'll have to watch maybe 1 on Monday. And actually, I think the math EOG is on Wednesday, so maybe 1 on Tuesday. So 1 today, 1 Monday, 1 Tuesday. I think that's a good plan. But that is it for this video. In case I don't see you again before the test, good luck, and I'll see you later.